Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Rising. Saagar, what are we doing today?
We have an amazing show for everybody today. We have Congresswoman Tulsi Gabbard. She's going to stop by, tell us a little bit about the War Powers Resolution vote that is happening today, and about the congressional briefing that she received yesterday. Wesley Yang, particularly excited about this one. He's a tabloid columnist. He's written a great book, and he's going to talk about Andrew Yang, Asian American identity, and also the 1619 Project. And then, of course, Ruben Gallego. He's a Democratic congressman. That'll also be interesting. He's going to talk to us about his thought. He's a military veteran, and he's also going to talk to us about his thoughts on the Iran situation. So a stacked show this morning.
Indeed.
But we're starting off, I think, with the War Powers Resolution Act. There's going to be a vote on that today, I believe, in the House of Representatives. And there was also a briefing given to, I think, all members of Congress, which caused a little bit of a firestorm, even from Republicans. Senator Mike Lee really just, lit into the president and the administration for that briefing. Let's take a listen to what he had to say.
What I found so distressing about that briefing was that one of the messages we received from the briefers was, do not debate, do not discuss the issue of the appropriateness of further military intervention against Iran. And that if you do, you'll be emboldening Iran. The implication being that we would somehow be making America less safe by having a debate or a discussion about the appropriateness of further military involvement against the government of Iran. But I don't care whether they're with the CIA, with the Department of Defense, or otherwise, to come in and tell us that we can't debate and discuss the appropriateness of military intervention against Iran. It's un-American, it's unconstitutional, and it's wrong.
Now, Rand Paul also not impressed with the whole situation, and Mike Lee went on with Martha MacCallum later in the day, and he explained a little bit more of what was disappointing to him. In particular, he said, first of all, there was nothing laid out in terms of the imminent threat that Soleimani posed the U.S. that he hadn't already seen in the newspaper. So not a lot of substance to back that up. No shocker there. He also said, though, that they tried to push the administration on in what cases would you have to go to Congress. Like, for example, if you thought you had to take out the supreme leader, would you have to go to Congress? And they would not sort of answer that question. They just said, well, we'll keep you in the loop, but wouldn't commit to anything. So that's why he was so disappointed. On the other hand, let us not lose sight of the fact that while Democrats were at least, verbally saying the president's lawless and he's got to be checked and we've got to impeach him over the Ukrainian call, et cetera, at the same time, progressives like Ro Khanna were trying to push for this exact War Powers Resolution to be included as an amendment in the National Defense Authorization, as well as denying funding for any potential military action in Iran. And Democrats completely rolled over on that to appease Republicans. That would have been put in place before this strike, and they didn't see it necessary or think that was worth fighting for then. So you also have to look at Democrat complete failure on this whole topic from the beginning, too.
I will say, in Mike Lee and Rand Paul's defense, those are the guys who actually would support something like that.
They
would have from the very beginning. They're very libertarian, who I have some problems with. But on war, they're generally good. I do think what's useful from Mike Lee and what he said about not being able to read anything beyond the newspaper is saying and having some sort of skepticism. And we're being told right now, the Vice President of the United States, he just went on, I think it was the Today Show, and he responded to Senator Lee's criticism. What he said is that the Congress was not be able to have a full briefing in order to protect sources and methods.
But but Mike Lee responded to that.
Right.
I mean, they were in a skiff.
Yeah, exactly.
It was a classified setting. Like, you're supposed to be able to share this information.
And part of the issue, this is actually what you were just talking about with Russiagate. It's the same problem, because what kept happening during Russiagate is that Adam Schiff and the Republicans, let's not deny it, every time they would get a classified piece of information which was useful to them, they would selectively leak their portion to whichever friendly reporter that they happened to have on the phone.
But this is BS.
But
I'm very skeptical of the fact that they had. I'm very, very skeptical of the idea that they had any intelligence that indicated an imminent threat different than any of the general planning that Iran and Soleimani were doing day after day. We have not seen any indication that was true.
We haven't.
And if they had it, this would be beneficial for them to get out there in the press that we have this information and the public can't know it, but it was an imminent threat. That would be very beneficial.
I've been thinking about that, actually, which is that it's what the strangest thing about the administration is doing is that they're like basically saying you have to trust us. And that is just, I mean, look, after Iraq, nobody's ever going to trust you.
No one's going to trust anyone.
But even, during Iraq, the Bush administration undertook a very sophisticated and concerted effort to convince the American public, with the complicity of the media, no question. But like, they had briefings, they had slides, they had like Colin Powell giving speeches. I mean, with, you know, yellow cake, and they had this whole narrative, but at least it was something. At least they had like a step-by-step thing. It turned out to be complete BS. But this administration has not even taken the time to do that. They have basically just come out and said, you have to trust us. They haven't put out anything into the public sector. There's no White House press briefing. There's no DOD briefing. The president hasn't come out and given a national address. Even the Secretary of Defense. I mean, this is literally their job. If you're going to go and take the American public into a military confrontation or to do something like this, you have to lay out, and I think it would be to their benefit, right, if they were to do so. But
I don't think they have anything to lay out is the problem.
Well, then that's part of the issue.
They're betting on, and probably rightly so, that their cheerleaders are going to back them up, both in the media and the sycophants in Congress, and by and large they have, with one very significant exception. So this is interesting. We've been talking about this on Rising. So when the news broke about Soleimani's assassination, it broke during the 8 p.m. hour, which is Tucker Carlson's hour on Fox News. And he was immediately critical, skeptical, et cetera, and he continued, that skepticism continued in his coverage to push against escalation, against winding up in a hot war where our men and women would go and fight and die for Iran, overseas in Iran. So according to new reporting by BuzzFeed, that coverage may have actually been what helped to sway the president from escalating after Iran retaliated and hit our bases in Iraq. I mean, look, who knows how much of a factor that was, but it's pretty wild to think that Tucker Carlson may have kept us from going to war.
I mean, he certainly could have. And that's, I mean, Trump watches Tucker Carlson. I mean, I don't know if this is true, but I have been told by people who say that Trump, the only show on Fox News that he truly watches all the way through and like tries to digest is Tucker Carlson's show. And I think that makes sense because Tucker's show is the pure id of what got Donald Trump to be elected. And unlike most people on cable television, Tucker is, at least now, is a very intellectually honest person whenever it comes to the populist right. And he has kept and checked Trump on so many of these different things. And
what you mean by that is he doesn't just cheerlead for Trump.
No, I mean, he's not like, he's not one of these like MAGA bots who like whatever Trump says or does, he cheerleads. He's been critical of criminal justice reform. He's been critical on the president's steps on immigration. And now he's been critical on war. And these are all things that are very counter to what the president ran on. So what Tucker did is, I mean, he basically just voiced the, you know, what most of the American public wants, but also what the people who actually voted for Trump want, which is no more war with Iran. What do we talk about here all the time? Who are the people who went and fought and died in Iraq and in Afghanistan? They're people of West Virginia. They're the people of working class communities, people, Flint, Michigan. This was one of the things that Michael Moore used to talk about during Fahrenheit 9/11, which is that, you know, from these dilapidated communities are the places where you'll find the most numbers of Army recruiters and the most numbers of young men and women who sign up to the military and end up deploying. So what Tucker is really doing is holding the administration to account from an actually intellectually honest position. And the remarkable thing about that is that it didn't exist in 2003. Right?
Yeah.
Is that for the first time you actually have somebody who's actually holding somebody accountable relative to this? There's no way any MSNBC cheerleaded President Obama all day, even whenever he did things counter to whatever he ran on. This is one of the few instances where you see that actual populist check on somebody.
And you have to give Tucker some credit here because overwhelmingly Republicans did support the president's strike on Soleimani. And when you're on Fox News, if you're doing anything other than cheerlead Trump, there's a price to pay in terms of your audience and their feelings about you. So you have to give him credit for that. That's as much credit as I'll give him. One other very quick announcement that we're excited about. We mentioned before, we are coming to LA. What's our date on LA?
February 8th.
February 8th. And so the exciting announcement is that Jimmy Dore is going to join us for that show. So if you want to come check us out, that's going to be the launch of our book, Populist Guide to 2020. So if you want to check out the book, if you want to check out getting tickets for that show in LA, go to rising.substack.com and all the details are there.
There you go.
Very excited.
I'm going to hear what's on Krystal's radar. That's next.